SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Whether you're looking to start a career with no student loans or change careers to land one of the happiest jobs in the world, yep, that's construction, Build Mississippi can help. Visit buildmississippi.com to learn why a career in the trades deserves another look. Buildmississippi.com. Your future is waiting.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21.
Middle of the week, Hump Day, Wednesday morning, October 8th. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard. Glad to be with you. Thanks for choosing to start your day with us. You know, just like every other single day on this show, we'd love to hear from you. Want to interact with you on the C Spire text line. The number is 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. So much happening at C Spire. Check them out online at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. Good morning, Lance.
Good morning, RC.
What's shaking, bud?
Oh, nothing new, man. You know, it's just another day, another dollar.
Yeah.
Hump day.
The
today Wednesday? Yeah, it is.
Today is Wednesday. I spent most of yesterday feeling like it was already Thursday, which it decidedly was not.
Heck, I thought it was October the 15th, apparently, you know, so
Yeah, well.
it happens.
Yeah. Obi had a football game last night, and all of his football games this year have been on Thursdays. But because of fall break, they had it on Tuesday this week, and so I think that's what it was. Just kind of threw me for a loop, but that's okay.
How'd the youngster do?
It was good. They actually lost last night, 44-42.
What? Man.
Wild game.
Sounds
wild
like
game.
A lot of running, or do they sling it around too, or what?
All the above. Man, it's
real football.
They are not afraid to put it in the air.
Yeah, I like that.
In middle school, junior high, which is a little bit different than how we played
we played safe.
when I was playing.
Safety
But
ball,
yeah. So no, it was cool. But kind of a late night, and now added on this Wednesday morning, and we're thrilled to be with you. It'll be a nice day for the most part across Mississippi. A little warm in some spots for early October. Grenada, intervals of clouds and sunshine for you. You've got a high of 84. Winds out of the northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Canton, you've got partly cloudy skies today, 87 degrees. Winds out of the northeast at 10 to 15, so a little breezier today in Canton. Macomb, overcast for you, the high of 87. 5 to 10 out of the northeast. That northeast breeze will cool things off a little bit, maybe knock that humidity back a touch. Biloxi, partly cloudy skies this morning will give way to more significantly cloudy skies this afternoon. Stray shower or thunderstorm is possible, high around 90, again with winds out of the northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. I keep refreshing that long-range forecast, like, oh, where's the break? Like when is it going to... It's like, meh.
There's no
maybe
official
a degree or
date
two
yet.
here or there, but nothing yet. What'd you say?
I said no official date yet, huh?
No, not the it is officially going to feel like fall and the pumpkins won't rot and all of that yet. I mean, I think you mentioned Halloween decorations a couple of days ago.
They're starting to show up in much more multiple now. Looking good.
Yeah. Halloween, the Halloween bug kind of bit Jane this year. Sunday afternoon, she's like, hey, will you help me do this and string that. I'm like, what are we doing? We've never done Halloween. Well, I'm just kind of feeling it. I was like, okay, yes, ma'am, be happy to.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
we've got a skeleton and a witch's hat on the front porch. And
Any blow up stuff yet that can, in a good gust? We had some nice wind. It must have been, 10,
that can
15
wreak
miles
havoc.
an hour the other day. And as I was coming through after lunch, noticing some of the Halloween decor was really holding on by a thread there. They're going to have to
Gotta anchor those.
Got to anchor it down a little bit better because in about a 15-mile-an-hour wind, some of them look like they were about to be a wind sail. That's
I've
always
never
fun.
been a Halloween guy. And so I just kind of ignore the Halloween decorations or the section in a store where it's out. I mean, other than grabbing a few bags of candy because those have got to be handed out for trick-or-treaters. I actually went to Home Depot looking for something in specifically the other day, and the decorations, man, their section of stuff to like put in your yard,
It's legit.
good grief.
It's a full
12-foot skeleton, an 8-foot dinosaur. Okay. People spend a lot of money on that stuff too.
They do. It's getting to be where I wouldn't say it rivals Christmas in any way, but the creativity of the decor definitely has started to, rival the Christmas stuff because you don't really see a lot of the same thing. I mean, I've gone through several neighborhoods and hadn't really seen the same, October Halloween decorations yet. So there must be a lot of stuff to choose from. I'm like you. I've never really done much other than like put the pumpkin out, and that was always the thing, carving a pumpkin. And I don't know if anybody does that anymore.
We do, I think. I think we do. Jesse Jackson is 84 today, the 1941 birthday for him. American clergyman and civil rights advocate, ran for president a couple of times in the mid and late 80s, born in Greenville, South Carolina. You familiar with Cornelius Chase?
No.
Perhaps you know him better as Chevy Chase, born on this day in 1943. Actor and writer, Saturday Night Live for a couple of years. The Vacation series, along with Fletch and Caddyshack. Chevy Chase, born in New York City. Favorite Chevy Chase movie?
All of them. I mean, how do you pick out of any of those?
Christmas Vacation is how you pick.
Well, I mean, Caddyshack's hard to beat. It's hard.
I know.
Fletch one is, I don't know. To me, that's what I'm saying. It's hard. Vacation is definitely great, especially at the right time of year. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Fletch, Caddyshack. I mean, come on. I don't. I wouldn't be able to choose between those. That's impossible. Now he's done some. There's some lemons in there that are pretty bad, but as was the era too. Those guys were making tons of movies, and the top 4, 5, 6 were always great. But then there might be 10 or 20 that are just brutal. So there's a couple of those in there, but
got some bad ones.
Yeah.
R.L. Stine, children's book writer, author of the book Goosebumps, born in Columbus, Ohio in 1943. 1949, Sigourney Weaver, American actress with a lot to her credit, born in Manhattan. Robert Kool Bell, the American funk rock bassist from Kool and the Gang, born in Youngstown, Ohio in 1950. I'm sure President Trump sent Ursula von der Leyen birthday wishes this morning. The 67-year-old German politician was born in 1958. First woman elected president of the European Commission. She was born in Brussels. Guy that has not had many lemons in the box office. Matt Damon, 55 years old today, born in 1970. A lot of times you get the series of movies and people just kind of check out on them. There's some that are just wildly successful. Like the Fast and the Furious series, I don't even know how many there are of them, but they all seem to make a ton of money, and people generally like them. How about the run for Matt Damon? Born in 1970, Good Will Hunting. Obviously, that was a standalone. You like apples? They like them apples. But Matt Damon of both the Oceans trilogy and the Bourne trilogy. Born in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Ocean's 11 is so good.
Yeah, the first one. Isn't that what it was? Yeah, the Ocean's 11 was the first one.
Yeah.
I like all the Bourne movies, though. I mean,
That's right.
the Renner one's good, too. I like Jeremy Renner. So that
Talented Bruno Mars, born in 1940. I'm sorry, he's 40 years old, born in 1985, American pop and R&B singer and songwriter with songs including Uptown Funk. He was born in Honolulu. This day in 1871, you had the Great Chicago Fire. It killed an estimated 300 people, destroyed over 4 square miles of buildings, and the original Emancipation Proclamation. 1918, one of the great American heroes of all time, Sergeant Alvin York, killed 25 German soldiers single-handedly, attacking a German gun nest, killing at least 25 and capturing 132. The comedy duo of Abbott and Costello launched their weekly radio show on this day in 1942. Apple Records releases John Lennon's second solo album titled Imagine in the United Kingdom. Topped the charts in the U.S., the U.K., Australia, and 3 other countries. 1986, The Color of Money, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Paul Newman and Tom Cruise, premiered in New York City. A couple of other notes about this day in history, then we'll get to some news headlines when we come back with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for starting your day with us.
Should he grab on to the new? He's an old hippie. This new life is just a bust. He ain't trying to change nobody. He's just trying real hard to adjust.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I came here looking for something I couldn't find anywhere else. Hey, I'm not trying to be nobody. I just want a chance to be myself. I've spent 1,000 miles of thumbing. Yes, I've worn blisters on my heels.
It is that day. It is a Country Music Wednesday. Thank you, Lance. We're glad to be with you. 1988, finish it. This is a remarkable number. 1988. Pink Floyd's album, The Dark Side of the Moon, makes its final appearance on the Billboard 200 Albums chart. How long would you guess The Dark Side of the Moon was on the Billboard 200 list?
Let's go with, I'll guess here, 48 weeks or something.
Well, that's just a silly guess. 741 weeks.
That can't be right. No way.
How is that possible?
Yeah. I mean, great song.
Yeah. Great album.
700 weeks.
So 741 divided by 52, that is 14 years.
Man.
The Dark Side of the Moon was on the Billboard 200. 1998, House of Representatives voted to begin impeachment hearings against President Bill Clinton on charges of lying about his affair with Monica Lewinsky.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
I believe that was Easter Sunday morning, if you go back and check. 2001, President George W. Bush announced the establishment of the Office of Homeland Security, not quite a month after the attacks of September 11th. 2004, one of the great career moves of all time. Martha Stewart begins a 5-month incarceration at federal prison camp Alderson for insider trading and obstruction of justice. You want to talk about the backside of a career being a bigger deal than the front side of a career? There you go.
Yeah.
Whew. Partnerships with everybody, including Snoop. Snoop Dogg, Martha Stewart. Who had them as friends?
She had got street cred after that.
Finally, 2018 New Orleans quarterback Drew Brees becomes the NFL's all-time leader in passing yards Needed 201 to surpass Peyton Manning on that day. Achieved 363 yards and 3 scores in the win over the Redskins at the Superdome back in 2018. Well, the end of the career for Drew Brees was special in terms of some records falling. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Mississippi country rocker Hardy is coming to the Magnolia State, taking the stage as part of his upcoming Country Tour with the full lineup of stops released by Live Nation yesterday. The country rock star from Philadelphia will begin the tour on February 5th in Canada. Then he will trek through 23 states throughout the spring and summer months. Not going to be traveling alone, though, as Hardy will team up with some of his genre standouts. He probably gives them shout-outs, including Cameron Whitcomb, Tucker Wetmore, Mitchell Tenpenny, Muscadine Bloodline, Jake Worthington, McCory Moore and others. You know, it's only a couple of years ago that Hardy was one of those guys who was teaming up with others kind of within the genre. Lone Stop in Mississippi will be in Tupelo on April 10th. Joining you on stage, Tenpenny and more. Hardy said ahead of the tour, "We won't let you down. It'll be a good time, and I can't wait to get back on the road already." Pre-sale is underway on tickets. The rest go on to the general public on Friday. That guy is really, really talented, and as good a performer as he is, his writing is spectacular. Lance, his music might not be in your wheelhouse, but he's really, really talented.
Oh, I've listened to some of the work.
Yeah.
I'm just a creature of habit. It's more than anything.
Yeah.
But it'll
until you find a wormhole on Netflix.
Yeah, that's where it works.
You get out of you become a new creature of habit.
Exactly. It's you stick to what you know and you enjoy, and then all of a sudden your mind gets blown when you hear something and just changes everything.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time. So yeah, thank you for the encouragement. I will revisit some things, but seriously, he's extremely talented. There's so many of the young ones that are, though. I mean, it almost is like there's so many, it's hard to keep up with, all of them, because there are so many great young talented artists out there, especially in that country rock world.
Yeah.
It seems to me so.
Former Gulfport Mayor Billy Hughes didn't stay out of the political scene for long. 3 months after turning over his mayoral seat to longtime Gulf Coast attorney and fellow Republican Hugh Keating, Hughes has been tapped by President Trump to serve as a commissioner on the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission. The president nominated Hughes on October 2nd to join the commission's acting chairman, Peter Feldman, as its lone 2 members. Earlier this year, Trump removed 3 commissioners appointed during President Biden's administration, and another announced his resignation. The 3 terminated commissioners had their posts restored temporarily until the Supreme Court said, no, Trump can do what he wants to do, you're out. Hughes grew up in Gulfport despite being born in Louisiana, first entered into the political realm when he was elected in 1992 to the Senate here in Mississippi, held that position until 2012. President pro tem of the Senate. Made a run for governor. Made a run for lieutenant governor in 2011, decided to go home, turn his attention to serving on the local level, and that's what he did. Great job as the mayor in Gulfport. Consumer Product Safety Committee. You think you get lots of samples sent to you?
Yeah, that's what I was curious. It's like all the samples that you'd be getting. Like, all right, you got to test this. Make sure they.
I really need to test these robotic lawnmowers and see how they work.
Yeah, what kind of box do they come in? Is it easy to assemble?
Yeah. Where exactly do I put this charging station? The 2025-26 oyster season will begin soon. Actually, I guess that would be the 26-27 oyster season will begin soon. No, that's not right. The
25, 26.
Yeah. We're in 25. That was right. My brain was not right. Sunrise on October 13th, 5 days from right now. According to the Mississippi Department of Marine resources. Daily harvest limits will be set at 15 sacks per commercial vessel and 20 sacks per commercial dredging vessel. All recreational harvesters are limited to 3 sacks per licensed resident per 7-day period.
You an oyster man?
Sure.
I
don't go out of my way to get them, but I will occasionally order oysters if they're on the menu.
The difference in them is I learned over the years. So you got the Northeast and the West Coast versus the South and the Gulf of Mexico, and there are really only a couple of different versions of oysters. But the
big ones and the little ones.
Well, no, like two different styles, I guess. And one is a little bit more, I'd say has a little bit different flavor to it, crispier, and then you have the ones that we normally get that have the full flavor and of the sound, and then I think around South Carolina they're about the same. But yeah, I mean oysters are great, but I much prefer them fried and nice and crispy. But I'll eat a mess of raw ones now. But
Your preference is fried oysters, though.
Oh yeah, man, give me a break. Sit there and eat it like a po' boy. I'll eat, and then the third way, obviously, is to put them on the grill with a little Parmesan and butter and char grill them for a second.
Little Rockefeller, char grilled.
Yeah, I'll eat them any which. I like all three of those. In other words, if those are three in front of me, I'm eating all three of them.
That oyster bar in the lobby of or the bottom floor of the Hilton in New Orleans. Ooh. That cat cooks some oysters.
I'm sorry, Gulf of America. You're right. Yeah, the Gulf of America. Not the Gulf of Mexico anymore.
Singing River Health System is the first in Mississippi to offer 3D printed tissue graft technology designed to treat chronic wounds.
That's pretty cool.
The Gulf Coast healthcare provider now features Applicor 3D, a hyper-personalized 3D bioprinting platform that uses a patient's own adipose tissue to create customized grafts for acute and chronic wounds. Graft is a piece of healthy tissue or organ that is transferred from one part of the body to another to repair damaged or diseased tissue. You think about that a lot in burn victims. When in use, Applicor 3D begins with high-resolution imaging of a wound, followed by harvesting a small sample of the patient's fat cells. These cells are processed into a bio-ink, then printed into a graft that fits the wound's exact dimensions. Unlike traditional skin grafts, the Applicor 3D graft promotes the body's innate healing processes by creating a custom, biologically active scaffold. We got to get somebody on to talk about that.
Yeah, that's some cool stuff.
Ridiculously cool.
From theseabrook.com.
No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Oh, baby, like I told you, I can't dig it, mama. Well, if you...
Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams, whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business. We're here to help every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Told you that the C Spire text line is open at 601-879-4395. Appreciate all of you jumping in. Good to have you along for the conversation this morning. James Comey is going to be arraigned today. Yesterday, top Justice Department officials brushed off rumors that he would be arrested and paraded in front of the media, providing their remarks on the former FBI director's court case one day before his arraignment. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and Kash Patel told Fox News Digital in a sit-down interview at the FBI Chicago field office that media reports about a possible camera-ready Comey arrest, a perp walk, were just distractions. Blanche said, "We conduct arrests. The FBI conducts arrests at every courthouse in this country every single day of the year." Maybe because we've seen sometimes the Department of Justice engage in the old perp walk. Mr. Comey has been directed to appear, and I expect that he will. But the noise from MSNBC and from retired agents or unnamed anonymous sources about perp walks is just that. Blanche said, "It's just noise." Reuters, MSNBC, and other news outlets reported in recent days that an FBI official was fired for refusing to partake in a showy arrest of Comey in a staged walk. He has been summoned to appear at a courthouse in Virginia on charges of making false statements to Congress. Unclear if an arrest is also planned. We'll keep our eyes on that story. Also going to keep our eyes on this, and it's going to be pretty for the eyes. A big cleanup day is coming to our state's capital. City of Jackson gearing up for a major community cleanup effort with the launch of Clean Jackson Gateway Beautification Day. It's a new citywide initiative designed to refresh and restore some of Jackson's busiest entry points. The first event, set for Saturday, October 18th, that's a week from this Saturday, will target several key corridors, including West Capitol, Woodrow Wilson, Fortification, High, Pearl, and Pascagoula streets. Volunteers will be working side by side to remove litter, debris, and overgrowth, all in an effort to make the city's gateways more inviting to residents and visitors alike.
Hey, I would say start over at Ellis Avenue. That is your gateway into Jackson State, folks. It's a disaster. It's a disgrace. Been through it many times. Highway 80 over there, disgrace. Needs to be fixed.
But this is a good thing.
No, I'm saying stay. You got to start somewhere, and I'm so proud of them for doing this. But again, Ellis Avenue, guys, that's your corridor into Jackson State in many cases. That does no justice to Jackson State's beauty and the hard work that they've done down there on a beautiful campus. So I'm so happy to see it happening, though. It's definitely needed.
Clean Jackson Gateway Beautification Day reflects our commitment to restoring pride in Jackson's gateways, and I invite everyone to be part of this effort, said Mayor John Horn. By volunteering, we can make a visible difference and demonstrate our love for the city of Jackson. Each cleanup site will have designated check-in areas where volunteers can pick up gloves, trash bags, and water. The city is also calling on local businesses, nonprofits, and civic groups to get involved through sponsorships or donations of supplies.
I got to give a shout-out to my buddy Locke Ward, a realtor here in Jackson, who really kind of spearheaded all of this several years ago by getting out on the interstates by himself because he got tired of seeing junk and mattresses and garbage everywhere. Said, all right, maybe I'll start this and, just get out here and do it. And thank you, Locke, because it has created the desire for many others to participate. And sometimes you got to lead by example, right? And he's done that. And thank you.
You can be part of that. You want to read the story, check it out online at supertalk.fm. Time for sports headlines this morning. They are brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Find them online at pearlriverresort.com. We are a week into the month of October, and I would submit to you that there is Yes, I believe this with all of my heart. I just have to make sure that I believe it before I say it out loud. October is the best month on the calendar for golf. I know the spring when everything is coming into bloom. Fall golf is the best. Try it for yourself at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. 2 18-hole championship courses, the Oaks and the Azaleas. Book your tee time online at dancingrabbitgolf.com. Dancing Rabbit, part of Pearl River Resort. Mississippi State football fans were in a bit of shock on Saturday night when they saw Fluff Bothwell go down and be carted off the field South Alabama transfer has had a big year for Mississippi State. What appeared to be a season-ending injury may well not have been the case, though. During his weekly press conference yesterday, second-year head coach Jeff Lebby said that he had received good news, quote, unquote, about Bothwell's status, though he didn't provide an expected return date. Through 6 games, the running back had amassed 465 yards and 6 touchdowns, averaging 5.5 yards per carry, including 134 yards and 2 touchdowns against Tennessee. Bothwell wasn't the only Bulldog that either was or has been plagued by the injury bug. Albert Reese and Isaac Smith were unable to play against Texas A&M on Saturday night. Mississippi State has an open date, probably at a good time this week, trying to get some guys healthy for the stretch run. Next up for the Bulldogs, an October 18th trip to Gainesville. It is now official. Well, at least there is a press release. The famous Crosstown Classic rivalry between Lafayette High School and Oxford High School is coming to an end. The schools are separated by about 2 miles. Officials with the Lafayette County School District made the announcement yesterday, confirming rumors and unofficial reports that had circulated on social media over the weekend. I don't know. I thought when I mentioned it on Monday afternoon it was pretty official, but it's now on their letterhead. The district's Board of Trustees was notified of the decision at its regularly scheduled monthly meeting last Wednesday. Lafayette officials informed Oxford Superintendent Bradley Robertson late that night. Coaches of the various sports teams at Lafayette were informed the next day, so that was last Thursday. The rivalry will officially come to an end at the start of next school year, meaning that this current athletic season will be the last, at least for the foreseeable future.
Why is this happening? I'm curious.
Lafayette officials cited a desire to, quote, remain successful by pouring into the development of our athletes with the best resources available, close quote. That is the best answer that I can give you from them, while also being more competitive in its classification 5A rather than facing 7A Oxford annually. They last played in football on September 12th. It was the 54th annual Crosstown Classic. Chargers won 63-20. Oxford said they would be open to renewing the rivalry if their counterparts at Lafayette happened to have a change of heart at some point in the future. I mentioned this on Monday afternoon, by the way. I understand that football was lopsided this year and has been for most of the last decade and a half. Most of. Lafayette's baseball team beat Oxford 2 out of 3 last year, won a state championship. They were good. Like good. Soccer, tennis, state championships. But not going to happen anymore. Not going to happen anymore.
Well, that's sad. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
It's a long-time rivalry.
It's a good one, brother.
It's a good one.
And,
went to
I mean,
many
there are a
of
lot of
those.
people. Well, and look, if you look online at comments on Facebook and other places, you will see that the reaction from students and fans of Lafayette is not necessarily the same as it is claimed to be in the press release, where lots of people were talked to and lots of research was done and everybody believed that this was the best path forward. Yeah, message on the C Spire text line. You know, West Point beat Starkville and Tupelo. They're 5A. I understand. But the leadership at Lafayette decided that that was the best decision for them at this time. So no more Oxford Lafayette in football.
From the
Pour yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
morning Mississippi Lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery. MSLottery.com is the website. There was no jackpot winner last night. However, one ticket purchased at Sprint Mart in Jackson matched 4 out of 5 white balls plus the mega ball to win $30,000. That means the estimated jackpot for Friday's drawing this Friday, October 10th, $575 million. An estimated cash value of $264,600,000. Last night's numbers, 17, 26, 33, 45, 56. The mega ball was 19. The next Powerball drawing coming up is tonight. $223 million for Powerball, with an estimated cash value of a little over $104 million as well. October scratch-off games now available at lottery retailers statewide with chances to win up to $100,000. Try $1 lucky numbers, $3 bingo night, or $5 cash money, each loaded with exciting ways to win, including multipliers and bonus spots. MSLottery.com for all the information. That is your Mississippi Lottery update. They looked dead, and then they were not. Cody Bellinger stood in the on-deck circle during the fourth inning Tuesday night, the ideal vantage point to follow the 100-mile-per-hour fastball that Aaron Judge launched from over a foot inside off the plate and into the sky down the left field line. They say it was ghosts in Yankee Stadium. Bellinger had one wish. He said, "I was just saying, hit the bleeping foul pole." It did. It hit the foul pole 3/4 of the way up for a game-tying 3-run home run. Yankees were down 6-1 out of the gate. They have been blitzed in the series so far. Came from behind, won at 9-6 to force a game 4 on Wednesday night. Yanks got to win 2 more in a row to stay alive in the playoffs. 9-6 the final, and pretty cool game. Pretty neat game. The other playoff game in action last night in Detroit, it was the Mariners taking a 2-1 series lead over the Tigers in that ball game. It's the Detroit won game 1. Seattle has won games 2 and 3, and they will get back to it tonight. Actually, this afternoon, Seattle, Detroit at 2. Milwaukee and Chicago, potential elimination game for the Cubs, down no games to 2. From Wrigley at 4 this afternoon, 6 tonight in the Bronx, and then 8 tonight in L.A. Dodgers trying to close out the Philadelphia Phillies.
Isn't this the only or first day where they've all played on the same day? Hadn't it been kind of staggered, and now you got 4 games? So you got plenty of baseball to watch today, starting at 2:08.
Yes, in the division series, that is correct. Now, during the wild card, you had all 4 that were going at the same time. But, yeah.
That's what I meant, division series.
Yeah.
I wasn't being very specific.
No. I was thinking through that. But, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, plenty of ball today.
The NCAA is officially moving transfer portal season in college football from December to January. The D1 Administrative Committee voted yesterday to adopt the proposed dates of January 2nd through the 16th as the new transfer portal window for all FBS and FCS players in 2026. College football players, including grad transfers, now must wait until January 2nd to officially enter their names in the NCAA transfer portal and initiate contact with other schools. The reform is expected to be finalized this afternoon. The new 15-day transfer portal window opens 1 day after college football playoff quarterfinals close or conclude. Players on the 2 teams competing And the national championship game on January 19th will get an additional 5-day period, January 20th through 24th, to enter the portal after their season ends.
Finally, a little bit of order in this.
There is, actually. Until now, players were given a 30-day window to enter the portal immediately after a coaching change. And then you had the big December open date, and then another open period in the spring. They're getting rid of all of that. Last year, more than 4,900 FBS players and more than 3,200 FCS players entered into the transfer portal. 1 hour in the books. Glad to be with you on this Wednesday morning. William Russell will join us in the 7 o'clock hour this morning. We got a lot coming your way. MRC on SuperTalk Mississippi. News is coming up next. Then we rejoin you just after 7 o'clock.
White socks and blue ribbon beer.
Your home.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk Mississippi.
Appreciate you being with us. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Glad to have you along for the ride. The 7 o'clock hour is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR benefits and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today. Just chat with them. Talk to them about your needs. The number is 601-206-7966. 601-206-7966 or online at mwgemployerservices.com. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. We appreciate you being with us this morning. The C Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395. Fast speeds win games. They also win in business. Learn more about what fast speeds can do for your business with the business IT team and gigabit fiber internet from C Spire. Find them online at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. So, Chicago officials are digging their heels in. You have a bunch of liberal officials that are digging their heels in right now. In Chicago, local and state politicians railed against Trump's the Trump administration's federalization of the National Guard in Illinois, as hundreds of guardsmen gathered and protesters vowed to continue to challenge their presence. How can they do that in Illinois, Richard? I thought we had a judge that said no. No, that was in Oregon, where a judge said no. In Chicago, there was actually a judge in this part of the country that said, yeah, the president actually does have the power to do that. So what a system we have where federal judges can rule willy-nilly based on what they believe, what their interpretation of the law is, or what their political leanings are, depending on how you want to look at it. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
What a guy. What a guy.
He was in Minneapolis, and this is his latest. I mean, in terms of just, I'm just going to come up with an outrageous claim that sounds bad, throw it against the wall, and see if it sticks, see if it gets a little traction. He suggested that President Trump's actions are a precursor to trying to intimidate Democrat voters ahead of next year's midterm elections. Here's the quote. He wants us all in big cities to get used to the idea that it's okay to have military on the streets. You're going to see soldiers outside your polling place. That's going to intimidate a lot of people. And especially it's going to intimidate people who are not Republicans. There's a thing that's going on here, and I don't know if you've noticed it. It's not a very complicated thing. It's really not a very complicated thing. There is a group of Americans, pretty large group of Americans, that support the rule of law and law enforcement and our military and want our country to be a safer, better place. And they recognize that this group of people recognizes that we don't want American military personnel constantly roaming our streets, that we don't want federal law enforcement coming into our communities to restore order, but we are willing to be okay with those things, to deal with those things for a short period of time to get past this lawless, anarchist society that we've got in so many of our big, great cities. Here's the thing. The United States of America's big cities are wonderful. Or they can be. New York City, under the leadership of Rudy Giuliani, into Michael Bloomberg, not New York City of the 70s, less New York City today, even less in the coming days if Mamdani indeed becomes mayor. New York City in the, from early mid-90s through just a few years ago, greatest city in the world and not even close. Like, genuinely felt safe in New York City. Now, like everywhere, there are places you can get into or you get in trouble. Walking down Fifth Avenue, walking down Avenue of the Americas, up around Central Park, Lower Manhattan, you're in the meatpacking district, you're in Soho, you're down in the financial district. You just felt safe. Period. Chicago, great city. Right there on the water, the Miracle Mile, multiple professional sports teams, great art scene, incredible restaurants. San Francisco, spectacular city. On the bay, the mystique of the fog and the marine layer, Fisherman's Wharf, the Presidio, the Golden Gate Bridge, incredible restaurants, a lot of people outside, great weather. I've never been to Portland, but everybody I've heard, just spectacular, beautiful, arts, like fauna and flora. And there are more of that. New Orleans. We know the love that people have in their heart for the city of New Orleans, where we live. There's a mystique, there's a nostalgia, there's a romanticism that goes along with New Orleans. And the French Quarter and all of its awful smells, and Uptown and Canal and de Montbriand and all the different places, and the river right there on the banks and walking down along it, and don't feel real safe doing that right now. There is a segment of the United States of American population that wants those things back. And yet, these cities in which majority Democrats live, and those majority Democrats have voted time after time after time after time after time after time for Democrat leadership, have watched those Democrat leaders they elect run those cities into the ground and create places that are safe, unsafe, create places that are unwelcoming, create places that are hives for gang activity, create places where people get beat up, get mugged, get robbed, get shot, that are bastions for homelessness. It has happened in city after city across the United States with Democrat leadership.
It's almost like its own
But you've
purpose.
got a bunch of people that are okay with that. And then you have this other side that says, no, we're not okay with National Guard and military roaming our streets, and we're not okay with that, and we don't want federal help all the time, but doggone it, we want our cities back. We want our country back. But J.B. Pritzker just wants to say, this is step one of Trump intimidation. Abigail Jackson, by the way, White House spokesman, said that Trump will not turn a blind eye to the lawlessness plaguing American cities like J.B. Pritzker is willing to do, like Gavin Newsom is willing to do. She said the president has exercised his lawful authority to protect federal officers and assets. Roughly 500 soldiers, 300 from the Illinois National Guard, 200 more from Texas, are present in the greater Chicago area. And they're going to try to bring things underway. Kash Patel said in an interview yesterday there are 110,000 gang members in Chicago. ICE operations have been stepping up across Chicagoland in recent weeks. Border Patrol agents have made arrests in downtown Chicago in a recent weekend. Chicago will be saved, and this FBI will continue to crush violent crime there and all around the country, Kash Patel said in a social media post. This is Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Venable Mornings with Richard Cross, here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the SuperTalk app.
Well, preacher man talking on TV, cutting down my rock and roll. He wants me to send the donation, says he's worried about my soul. Now, Jesus,
Welcome again, Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. First guest of the morning is, I think, a guy that you know well, William Russell. He is a former part of the Trump campaign, an advisor, state director in Mississippi, a partner at Ballard Partners in Washington, D.C., joins us, cowbell over his left shoulder this morning.
You know it, baby.
What's up, Willie?
It. You know, it's a kind of a bleak day and a rainy day here in Washington, D.C., but it's always a good day to be a Mississippian. It's always a good day to talk to you, Richard. Thanks for having me on again.
I appreciate that. Always appreciate your time. I think I asked you last time we visited, but I don't remember exactly how you answered it, so I'll visit there again. And it kind of topical with where we were before this started. Does Washington, D.C. feel safer to be out and about on the streets, going to a restaurant? Does it feel safer now than it did a month ago?
I think so. I certainly kind of feel that. It's the visual deterrence that the National Guard and a more robust police force offers. You just don't... Even if it may be just a figment of my imagination, I certainly feel safer just by having guys walking around that are paying attention, that are just eyes peeled. I think that's a very good thing to have. And I think that, you know, I personally, I actually live in Virginia. I don't even live in D.C. I work in D.C., so I drive in every day. So it's the walking around during the day that I feel comfortable when you go out for a dinner or something like that. Yeah, I'm encouraged to know that at least it would seem like there's some semblance of normalcy returning to DC. Now, I mean, we've talked about this in the past. There's a real problem with the DC police. There's a real problem in how they report the crimes or underreport or misreport. That's all under investigation right now by the DOJ anyway. So I think that there is multiple factors that are playing into what's going on and the reality of the situation in DC versus where we are today with the National Guard still here. Yeah. At any rate, I think that's working. And I think we're going to see that work at a couple of other great states around the country.
Well, and before you came on, I was talking about cities. And we have great cities in the United States, or at least used to, and they're just not great places like many of them once were under their Democrat leadership for years, if not decades. A lot of people have pushed back as we've talked about this, about the idea of uniformed military personnel on the streets, and that's not a look that we want in the United States. And I think most people agree with that. It's like, no, we don't want that, but we're willing to sacrifice for a little while to try and get this problem under control. Is it a temporary solution, though, where we just go back to how it was, or does this create progress that is sustainable moving forward?
So I think it's multifaceted, right? If you're just coming in with the National Guard and putting a Band-Aid on an issue by trying to create that visual deterrence for criminal activity, yeah, it's great for the amount of time that the National Guard is going to be on the street corner watching out for the people. But to your point, that is not a long-term solution.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be acting as if that's going to be our stopgap every single time we see a crime get out of control somewhere. This needs to be a hand-in-hand partnership with not only trying to get the crime that is actively happening down, which is what the National Guard effectively doing right now by being the visual deterrent, but this also needs to be an administrative reform inside each police force. You know, I know in our home state, we've got these kind of reforms that need to happen, whether it be with Jackson Police Department, where I come from, where I'm born and raised in Columbus, Mississippi. Columbus Police Department needed reform several years ago and still needs it now. Like, we need to be reforming our police, our police officers. We need to be making sure that the leadership for our police departments are capable and prepared to do the job, and that any sort of impropriety like what we're seeing in DC with this misrepresentation of the actual crime that's happening on the ground that's dealt with swiftly and efficiently and removed, as that's not the way that we do business. And I hope that they're doing that right now.
I would give Muriel Bowser, the mayor in D.C., some level of credit, even though she kind of pushed back against the idea on the front end. She maybe with some reticence agreed that it had worked, right? That crime numbers were down, and she was thankful for the partnership with the National Guard. And that's not what is happening in Chicago. You got Johnson, this mayor, who's like pushing back like crazy. You've got J.B. Pritzker saying last night that this is something that you better get used to, and it's the first step toward voter suppression in the midterms, which is incredibly rich, because it's kind of like gaslighting 101 from Democrats in terms of, we're going to say out loud and accuse you of the things that we actually do. And I wonder if people are smart enough, finally, ever, to see it, to recognize it.
I don't know. But I will say, this last time I came on, we talked about how we've kind of seen Republicans writ large through Charlie Kirk's death step up and call out the problems that they're seeing very publicly. Mm-hmm. That's, that normally we do that in our own circles, but we do it, tactfully, and we don't we're not very loud about it because we're trying to be, kind of, or they're just, we don't have a spine and we're not willing to be public about it.
Bless her heart.
My hope, correct. And my thought in this culture shift that we seem to be having in the United States of a willingness, more willing to step up, call out the problem for what it is. I'm hoping that the conservatives, the Republicans, actually partisan politics aside, people who want to be safe in their community, I'm hoping that those people step up and start having the conversation with their local officials in Chicago and in Illinois writ large. I'm hopeful that people who just want the sense of normalcy and just want to have crime under control and want to have their kids play outside till the streetlights come on. Like, I think that there are more people in this country that want that, and they don't really care how we get there. They just want to get back to that. And I'm hoping that they're the ones who step up and engage directly with the mayor, engage directly with their congressman or their senator or their governor and say, I appreciate what you're talking about. Of course, we don't want a militarized state, but something's got to change because the way we're doing it right now ain't working.
I have friends that see the world differently than I do politically, but I think they want their kids to be safe at night.
It's a pretty simple thing. Like, I'm there. I don't agree with everybody, but we're able to come together on our kids and agreeing that we want good education, on agreeing that we want safe schools, we want safe neighborhoods. We don't want our kids getting abducted. We don't want our kids joining gangs.
I mean, we all like hanging out, watching football, and eating food that comes off the grill. Exactly. There are things that are in common there, and it's like the Looney Tune spectrums of the parties. And I've said a bunch of times, William, and I haven't really gotten a whole lot of pushback about the only thing crazier than a far left nut job is a right-wing nut job, because they're out there too.
Sure, absolutely.
And kind of to pull it back closer to home, I mean, you said, in Chicago in particular, and I mean, in Memphis, in Jackson, in New Orleans, where we're talking about safety. Like, you want to go play in a tennis match that finishes at dusk and feel like you can get to your car safely without being robbed or carjacked or assaulted. Like, that's fairly basic. All right. William Russell, partner at Ballard Partners, always enjoy visiting in Washington, D.C. We're going to get him to hang on for just a few more minutes. We're going to talk about Supreme Court being back in session and some of the other things that are happening in Congress as we are into week 2 of the federal government shutdown. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Quick time out. We got more with you coming up right after this.
From the Zebra.
This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I was 3 days short of pulling out of Kingsport. I was headed down to Houston town. Had a guitar pack and a burlap sack for exploiting my country sound. Bypass Jackson, bypass Memphis. By the time I got to Arkansas, I'd sold my car and that black guitar for anything cool and tall.
We do country music on Wednesdays. Lance has control of the jukebox, and it's all good. William Russell is my guest. He is a partner with Ballard Partners. Headquartered in Washington, D.C., worked with the Trump campaign as an advisor, state director here in Mississippi in bygone years, and feels like they're moving fast. Supreme Court Supreme Court back in session. They got a little bit of a holiday, and they got a docket full that feels like it is getting more full by the day. And the thing is, traditionally, the Supreme Court has moved at a pretty glacial pace. And now it is if they are being asked to move at light speed. Can this continue at the Supreme Court level?
I think it's going to have to continue. This is just kind of the way that our government writ large is moving. Whether it be through executive fiat, which is a lot of what we're seeing right now, whether it's through the states trying to counteract whatever the federal government is doing. This is naturally where we're going to head. Now, obviously, the Supreme Court has the ability to do whatever it is that they want to do. They can slow things down artificially if they want to. It's up to them. But I want to take a step back and think about how we are where we are with this Supreme Court, with the judges that we have on the bench now. I mean, not a day goes by when we're being challenged. Conservatives are being challenged. The administration is being challenged with the moves that they're making at the Supreme Court level. And I can't help but remember how many Supreme Court justices Donald Trump got the first time around, how pivotal that's going to play. I
don't think that's talked about enough. I think
it's not.
I think it is the biggest achievement that Donald Trump had as president in term one.
And you know what's funny? This was back when I affectionately refer to this as the wandering in the wilderness years, when I was continuing to work for the president down in Mar-a-Lago post-presidency. And we had two separate rulings, the Roe ruling, and we had affirmative action ruling. And I walked into his office when these were happening both times, and I said, I want you just to take a second and think about how you're not even in that White House anymore. You're here standing in front of me. We're hanging out in Mar-a-Lago, and you are still making America great again. This is your legacy that we're talking about here. It is going to live on.
You said that directly to Donald Trump?
Of course I did, and because it's true. This is his legacy. He is still, he's not even in power, and he's still making America great again. And that's what a wonderful thing to be able to have that opportunity in his first term, and then be able to come back and finish the job that he started. Hey, and in the interim, he.
No. Finish that thought. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I want to offshoot of this.
Sure. And in the interim, in between the years that he's serving president, he had a court that was stopping a lot of the aggressive posturing that the Biden administration was doing, or these states were doing. And it's because of his decisions, his opportunities to put those justices on the Supreme Court. It's an amazing thing. And it's going to go down as one of the best things that he ever did in either term. Let's hear it.
Well, I think you and I maybe have gone down this road before. There are conservatives, Republicans, right-wingers who get frustrated with the Supreme Court because not every single decision goes exactly the way they want it to. Obviously, that's the case with Democrats, is more decisions than not seem to not be going the way they want it to go. I would argue that is a sign of a healthy Supreme Court. Neither side should have every single judgment go its way. And when you look at the makeup, you'll hear people talk about John Roberts, and he's really been disappointing, and this was supposed to be this conservative, and John Roberts has been there a long time now.
Listen, John Roberts was wrong, though, on the fact that the ACA wasn't a tax. It was a tax. It is a tax. Yeah. That was very wrong on his part. Generally, he's been pretty good, but to your point, this is the Supreme Court. You said a judging, that word judgment. Mm-hmm. A judge is in the word. It's their judgment. on how they interpret the law. And I would say that if conservatives were the ones who are moaning, complaining about the rulings of some of the conservative justices, we don't want our conservative justices ruling from the bench and not through the law, just as much as we don't want the liberal side doing exactly that. So let's make better law, and if that law is challenged and put in front of the Supreme Court, it stands on its own merits instead of having activist judges from the right side ruling from the bench.
Yeah.
That's the whole design of our government.
So let's spin this forward. We are 13 months from midterms. As consequential a set of midterms as we have ever seen. Right now, Republicans have a majority, but it is a thin majority. House, Senate obviously have the White House. This particular term for Donald Trump has been ruled by executive order, and Congress has gotten a little bit done. Is there a scenario where Republicans pick up enough seats in the midterms that Congress can actually debate legislation, enact law, and some of Trump's policies can be enacted through Congress as opposed to just through the stroke of a pen?
Well, your listeners should be paying attention to Louisiana versus Calais and how the Supreme Court's going to rule on that. That case has major implications for the Voting Rights Act and the racial gerrymandering that has been done. It's yet to be seen how they're going to rule, but if they strike down one of the provisions in the Voting Rights Act, it allows for a more equally drawn districts instead of all this gerrymandering. I mean, take a look at, we were just talking about Illinois. Your listeners need to pull up a congressional map of Illinois and look how those districts are drawn. It is the most ridiculous thing that you have ever seen. It's gerrymandering to the max, right? Democrats complain about Republicans gerrymandering all the time, but take a look at yourselves. Look in the mirror. Part of that is along racial lines. I would argue that the Voting Rights Act was made to not allow the gerrymandering that's usually done in these Democrat states that find ways to make sure that a congressional district is skewed heavily toward one racial demographic over another in order to ensure that Democrats stay in power. So I would like to see this struck down. Now, that's wanting to afford a lot of the big red states to kind of do a redistricting rather quickly. We're going to see all kinds of redistricting. I think Florida is one of the ones right now that they're considering redistricting, pending whatever the decision the Supreme Court makes. So I believe, and there's some math out there that puts it all the way up to 22 seats that this affects. I don't think it's that high. It's probably around 15 seats in total in summation in the House. That if this specific case is overturned and struck down, or this Section 2 is struck down, it's going to affect about that many seats. But it's going to afford the states, the legislatures, an opportunity to shore up some red seats, to make some seats that are normally not in play. Maybe not a toss-up, but within striking distance, which it's all I would be asking for at this point. Give us a chance to grow the majority a little bit. But we're not talking about a lot here. But my hope is that when we win back the House and we maintain, we've already to win in the House and hopefully grow the majority. Same goes for the Senate. That in this last 2 years of this final Trump administration, we have a House and a Senate that are willing to step up and say, we're going to go all the way this time. Like, enough talk. We now have 2 years to finish the job, and irrespective of who comes next.
I'll just throw this at you, knowing that we don't have time to actually talk about it, and we can pick this up down the line. Are Republicans in the primary in 3 years going to kind of fall in line, or is there going to be this infighting that becomes destructive? And I guess when I say fall in line, I mean,
look.
do they lay the groundwork for J.D. Vance with Marco Rubio as the vice president? And then everybody's okay with that?
I don't know. We've got 3 years and a quarter to figure that out, Richard. So we'll keep that conversation.
Yeah, I know. We got a long way to go, but it's one of those that it's just worth kind of peeking around the corner and down the hallway at, because it's going to be interesting. Thank you, William.
That's 3 years. 3 years is a lifetime in politics.
It
Thank you, Richard.
certainly is. William Russell, partner with Ballard Partners in Washington, D.C., former advisor for Trump and chair of the Trump campaign in Mississippi. We're back with you after this.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
You're sorry once again. You want me to take you back once more. You say you need a helping hand, but that's what you told me once before. Walks on.
Great being with you. Great being with you on this Wednesday morning. Thanks for William Russell joining us, Richard Cross, Lance Tolbert. Don't forget that today is day 2 of Gerard on the Coast at Cruising.
What do you
the
say to the
Coast.
40% of California voters?
Hold
who
on, I hit the wrong
in order to
one.
win?
We're going to get to that in just a second because it is great. Oh, it's great. Cruising the Coast. Middays with Gerard Gibbert will be there starting at 10 this morning on the Biloxi Town Green. It's brought to you by Coastal Mississippi Tourism. Go to coastalmississippi.com to find an adventure on the coast. And then tomorrow the show will be at the Coast Coliseum, brought to you by Gulfport Luxury RV Resort. That place is nice. And by Vicari Auctions. Check it out. Cruising the Coast with Gerard Gibbert today and tomorrow. An amazing thing happened last night, Lance. Yesterday. You've got 7 candidates that are running, maybe more, for governor of California when Gavin Newsom is no longer the governor. And a news station with an investigative reporter has been interviewing the candidates and asking them questions about certain issues. And Katie Porter was up yesterday. Julie Watts is the one asking the questions. I just want to play this for you. It's 3 minutes long. And so, stick with it. If you haven't seen this, just listen to the words. This is remarkable.
Say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump.
How would I need them in order to win, man?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%. Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're saying.
In a general election, yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So how do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position. But let me be clear with you. I represented Orange County. I represented a purple area. Mm-hmm. I have stood on my own 2 feet and won Republican votes before. That's not something every candidate in this race can say. If you're from a deep blue area, if you're from LA or you're from Oakland, you don't have an experience.
But you just said you don't need those Trump voters.
But you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't
I
think
feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not
correct. And I said I support it.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And we've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win, and you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters, okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered.
I don't care. I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there.
Ms.
And
Porter,
we're just going to circle around.
I am an investigative
I have never had to do
reporter.
this before, ever.
You've never had to have a conversation with
to end
a
an
reporter?
interview.
Okay, but every other candidate has done this.
What part of I'm me? I'm running for governor because I'm a leader. So I am going to make...
So you're not going to answer questions from reporters? Okay, why don't we go through? I will continue to ask follow-up questions because that's my job as a journalist, but I will go through and ask these, and if you don't want to answer, you don't want to answer. So nearly every legislative...
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you, and I don't want this all on camera.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you either. I would love to continue to ask these questions so that we can show our viewers what every candidate feels about every one of these issues that they care about. And redistricting is a massive issue. We're going to do an entire story just on the responses to that question. And I've asked everybody the same follow-up question.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience in this interview.
Yeah, you got to call in FEMA on this disaster. Goodness gracious.
Did Katie Porter just completely derail her own candidacy for governor in 3 minutes in California?
They'd probably end up voting for her.
That is amazing. It is incredible. It is a meltdown of... And I didn't think the questions were terribly combative either. It was kind of conversational. Wait, hold on. Let me understand what you're saying here. You don't need these Trump voters to support you?
Not good at math, apparently.
8 o'clock hour on the way. News is coming up next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
The secret of a happy...
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Once you lie in the midnight hour, you climbed up on the water tower, stood on the rail and painted a 10-foot heart. And John Deere Green.
Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances? Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Glad to be with you on this Wednesday morning as we roll into the 8 o'clock hour. Thanks for joining us on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Scott Simmons joins us this morning. He is the Chief Communications Officer with MEMA, the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency. October is Fall Severe Weather Preparedness. Well, not the whole month. We got Severe Weather Preparedness Week in this first week of October. Scott, good morning. Thanks so much for your time.
Good morning. Glad to be here. Wait, I thought we were talking about Ole Miss football. I wasn't inspired. No, I'm joking.
Well,
Glad
if you would like.
No, I would love to, but perhaps another morning.
Perhaps so.
Yes.
Got to be ready for severe weather. We normally think of, I guess tornado season, if you will, as kind of being in the spring into the early part of the summer. That has become a much larger part of our fall weather patterns. We are still in hurricane season. I think technically that lasts through mid-November.
Right.
What do people need to be focused on right now?
Well, we ask people because this is what we call Fall Severe Preparedness Week, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the secondary severe weather season, if you want to say. The spring, of course, is always active, but we remind people just how many tornadoes do hit our state in the fall season. Just last year, we had 85 tornadoes for the whole year. we had 53 just in November and December. And it's a scary bit of reality when you realize that we just get tattooed all the time with severe weather. We're still working on the recovery from the March 14th, 15th storms, where so many people were impacted by the twisters that hit air. But in the fall season, we get them too, and it really picks up pace. I know as a journalist covering them into Christmas sometimes because they have no schedule. Just that fall weather pattern sets in, and that's when we start to see problems really arise.
This is anecdotal or just an observation. It's not based on science. It's not based on a meteorology degree. But it feels to me like our weather patterns have changed in the sense that it stays warm longer into the fall than it used to. And it stays cold a little longer into the spring maybe than it used to. And I operate, so much of my mind I feel like operates on an athletic calendar.
Yeah.
I feel like it stays warm longer into football and it's cold longer into the start of baseball than maybe it once was. Again, whether that's accurate or not, I don't know. But it feels like with the tornadoes that you're talking about that happened in November and into December, we've got this fight that's going on in the atmosphere between the warm weather and the cold weather, and it leads to atmospheric instability. Is there anything to that?
I don't know it. I'm not a meteorologist, but I'll play one on TV.
Okay.
No, and I joke about it, but seriously, you talked about how it works on an athletic schedule. I did this season. Two-a-days started for us August 10th. I went back and looked in the 1980s when August 10th, what was the average temperature? It was about mid-90s, which was the norm. We just, I guess, sucked it up back then. We're not perhaps as sensitive to it as we are now. I wish there was some scientific proof. People will argue about global warming. I don't see it. I know that we have short winters, it feels like. I know that we have, one of the highest activity, I think fourth highest in the nation right now in the number of tornadoes that have hit our area. Why? I don't know. I just know that it does happen. And that's why we ask people to focus during this week. All right, look, nothing's happening weather-wise, right? Knock on wood. Think about what you've got at your house. Are you prepared if, God forbid, a tornado dropped in? Could you stand on your own for 72 hours? Would you manage the water? People don't think about having a gallon of water for each person in your house each day. What if the water shut down like we had in the Jackson water crisis? Something that we learned, you don't miss having water out of the tap until it's not coming out of the tap anymore. Think about those things now, what you need to do to make sure that your family is prepared. We ask people to focus on that. Today, we're asking them to focus on tornado safety. Certainly those who live in mobile homes. Yes, they're convenient. Yes, they're affordable. But they're also at the highest risk of damage during straight line winds and tornado. We ask people today, think about what you would do if a tornado warning comes to your area. Do you know where the safe room is in your county? Is there a resident, a neighbor, a friend, or family who has a fixed foundation home that you could go to and ride out those hours of the tornado warning threat being at its highest? We ask people to think about that now.
In the event of severe weather, thankfully, I hesitate to say this out loud, and you probably will slap me for saying it, but it has been a quiet hurricane season, at least so far. We know that we are not out of hurricane season yet. In the event of a major storm or a major disaster that strikes in Mississippi, what does it look like? What does it feel like at MEMA during the couple of days lead up, the immediacy during the storm, and then the immediate aftermath?
I wonder what that's going to be like, too. I have been with MEMA now 6 months.
Okay.
Until now, people have always asked me leading into the season, Scott, are you worried about hurricane season? I'm like, I'm the guy who used to go stand in the hurricane. Now I'm working out of the headquarters in Pearl, so I'm not sure what it will be like to be on this side of the fence. I know talking to my colleagues, though, how they really ramp up because there's so many factors. Prepositioning supplies. You can't just go put your tarps and your water bottles and stuff in a warehouse in Biloxi. We know from Katrina, those got whacked out from the beach all the way to 90. So we think about things about prepositioning. What areas are going to be impacted in the event of a hurricane? Look at Hattiesburg and what will happen to that community because it's the hub city. All the interstates lead into it, right?
Right.
People will go there. That city will be overwhelmed. We'll think about and plan as we move forward in that event of how we get people from harm's way further inland, and how Hattiesburg becomes a location where we can move materials and response crews in fast. One of the great aspects of in the wake of Katrina, if you can, says the establishment of the Wind Radio Network. It allows the state now to have radio communications even in the event, hopefully, of a Katrina. Because when Katrina hit, remember, the first communications that came in from that area came from a ham radio operator who was working out of the EOC there on the coast, crawled up on the radio tower, put his ham radio antenna on it, and was able to get the first ham communications back to MEMA to let them know we're okay, but there's problems. We're looking at all aspects. We look at preparedness for a storm, any storm, but a hurricane you can see coming, and that's when you really start ramping things up. And we ask people to think about leaving, getting out of the way. One of the problems we ran into during Katrina is that so many people thought that, well, this previous storms didn't happen. So there was a little bit of anxiety in that I'm not going to leave again. The last two storms didn't really happen. We had a lot of people on the coast who did not bug out, and they suffered as a result of it. We lost 238 Mississippians in that storm. Looking at hurricanes, we ask people, start thinking about who's on the coast. You got any family in Pascagoula? Make sure they know they can come up to Brandon and stay at your house. Start those planning for your family and friends so that you can alleviate the impacts of a disaster like that.
Scott Simmons, Chief Communications Officer with MEMA. You talk about the amount of time that you've been there. What's it been like, kind of learning the language? Obviously, as a news reporter, you had your own language. What about internally and just kind of the way things operate?
It's impressive, to put it honestly. You never thought about the inner workings of the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency until you get on the ground and you see these professionals who really care and work with FEMA to get funding, to fight and scratch for every nickel and dime to help residents recover from disasters. How do you deal with grants and funding that help put boots on the ground, that train emergency management agency employees in other counties to make sure they're ready to respond? We talk about federally funded, state managed, locally implemented. And you realize, being on the ground at MEMA, how much training takes place from MEMA for those frontline people in each county, helping them be prepared for what they do. I didn't know much about that, but I do now. And there's just a lot of that happens that really lays a foundation for preparedness in our state and gave me a new advantage to how things are done that I didn't have before.
Scott Simmons is my guest, Chief Communications Officer at MEMA. We're going to talk with him a little bit more on the other side of this break. I'm going to get him to describe to you the MEMA headquarters and what that looks like. I've had people say it's like you're trying to launch a spaceship, or you feel like you could launch a spaceship from that technologically advanced center. We'll get into that and a little bit more with Scott Simmons on the other side of this timeout. You can be part of the conversation on the C Spire text line. 601-879-4395 is the number. The website, cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. We've got more coming up on the other side of this short timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank.
Maybe someday they'll show me some kind of sign on the blue side of the mountain where the sun don't ever shine.
From the Venable no matter where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, D'Iberville, or any other ville in the SIP, you're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
I'm a member of the country club. Country music is what I love. I drive an old Ford pickup truck. I do my drinking from
Good to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, middle of the week, which means we're on the downhill slide of the weekend, and that's good for most people. I mean, unless you have to work on the weekends, then it's just another set of days. Scott Simmons is my guest, Chief Communications Officer with MEMA. Mm-hmm. So you worked in television news for a long time. You make the transition to communications officer, and for a lot of people, they would look at that and go, okay, that makes sense, but it doesn't always work that way. Is this position for you? Are you especially suited for this because of your understanding of what journalists need in times of disaster?
I hope so. That depends on who you talk to, right? What they may say.
Yeah.
But, I spent so much of my career, you're talking about 3 decades and chasing storms. People had asked me, Scott, how do you feel about hurricane season coming up? And I'm like, I'm usually the guy standing in the storm.
Yeah.
Now I'll be working out of the bunker in Pearl. Working with journalists, the easy part for me is knowing what reporters need and what news people need. That's the easy part. The eye-opening experiences of me have been the administrative stuff, EMPG grants, filling out FEMA paperwork and things like that I didn't see coming, managing the emergency alert system network through MEMA, those things that you didn't think about. Those were the adjustments. But as a journalist, answering reporter questions has been the easy part because you know what they want. You know why they need what they need. Sometimes you know what they don't really need, but they ask for it anyway, and you give it to them, and you're like, yeah, you don't really need that, but I'll give it to you because you're not going to wade through that mess. You do that, and you work with media because that's the voice to people, to our viewers, the people that we serve at MEMA is that, we reach out to our partners in the media because they're our direct conduit to get to that message to the people, like Fall Severe Preparedness Week going on. This is how we communicate with them so that they'll be better prepared.
Yeah. I don't know if you had this growing up or even in your adult life. I'm that weird person, but there are a lot that are like me that, you and all of the good people at MEMA advise people on how to stay away from storms. And when I see a storm coming in, I want to go stand on the front porch and watch it and figure out how hard the wind's blowing and all those things. You had that responsibility when you were covering these storms, as you were saying just a second ago, standing out in them. Whether you're talking about Jim Cantori or Mike Seidel or some of the other Weather Channel people that you've seen do that through the years. How do you get to that point? Is there this curious fascination? Was there a thrill, an exhilaration, an adrenaline rush that went along for you with covering these storms?
Yeah. There was I won't lie. There's an adrenaline rush because you're on the front lines of a major event. And when I was working on the NBC in New Orleans and going into these storms in Florida, I would do a live shot for the 10 o'clock, and then they would flip me over to CNN, and then they would flip me over to MSNBC, and then I would flip over to Weather Channel, and I'd call my mom, at like 11 o'clock at night, Mom, I'm about to be on Weather Channel in 5 minutes, and have to hang up. And
yeah.
So you were doing a lot of that, and I tell the stories about, how I approach storm coverage. Most importantly, I want to make sure I protected the photographer and the equipment so we can continue to do our job. One time doing a hurricane down in Florida, and I'm standing on the beach, and I get a call from the studios in New Orleans, and I'm like, Scott, are you standing in front of a building? I'm like, no, why? Well, you're standing on the beach, and you're standing up with the guy from the CBS that says he's in the same area, and he can barely stand up. And I look down the beach about 100 yards, and that guy's doing the Cantori, oh my God, I can barely stand up. And I'm like, I am not going to do that. And I didn't. I really didn't. I did not try to add to it when I covered the storm because that was there already, and they didn't need the theatrics. They needed the facts. And one of the things I always try to approach in my career is, keep it simple, stupid, basic facts that people need. So in covering hurricanes, the basic ingredients were there. Bad wind, bad water, a lot of potential damage. The people stories within those really gave the story context. T-Boy, who lives in New Orleans but has a condo in Destin and is trying to hold on to that, put up, the storm shields outside the windows of his home, vacation home, or the fisherman who's trying to hold on to his boat because if that boat goes, then his business goes. Yeah. Those are the stories that gave context in explaining the impacts of hurricanes and storms like that.
I'm glad you went down that road before I asked it. I've seen those. We've all seen those where you've got the off-camera shoot. We're like, hold on, the weather's not doing this to him. This is exaggerated. I think about the scene from the original Twister, not the remake, where the person had to use the belt or the rope to tie themselves to a pole to stay in place. Did you ever have anything quite that severe?
No, I never tied myself to a pole. No, I had stuff that pushed me around. The truth is, of all the hurricanes I covered, and I really date myself when I say I covered Hurricane Andrew. But one of the scariest hurricanes I covered was a Cat 1, I think it was called Danny, that came across Grand Isle, Louisiana. And that's a barrier island, if you know South Louisiana. And so there's water in front of you and there's water behind you. And it was the only time that we had to evacuate our location because we were about to get washed over. And Highway 1, which leads to Grand Isle, was literally about to be overcome by storm surge. So we pushed into Port Fourchon to start doing live from there. Almost disappointed that I had to back off the beach line, but that was because it was about to get hairy. And again, if the equipment got taken over and knocked out, then you were out of business. So we always had to make sure that we protected staff and gear.
Scott Simmons, Chief Communications Officer with MEMA. We'll let you go here in just a couple of minutes. As we kind of go back to Preparedness Week for fall severe weather, what's kind of the lasting message that you pass along to people?
Think about what you need to do if it does happen. People say, we'll be fine, whatever, until it hits you. And then you realize that you got caught flat-footed. Just think about it right now. Nothing's going on, right? Do you have a case of water in the garage? Do you have enough canned goods that could push you through 3 days? In your freezer, do you have enough food that you could, even if you lost power, you could handle 3 days on your own? Think about those things. Think about evacuation plans. Think about your pets. If you had to bug out, could you bring your pets with you? What if you had to go to a shelter? Can't get the pets in? Most of the pets do. The shelters do take pets. I know Rankin County certainly does. We ask people to think about their preparedness and their loved ones. You may think about yourself, but did you think about your mom who's 88 years old? I know I do. And you think about those things that what would you need to do in the event? Hurricane Katrina is a reminder. We just had our big anniversary, right? Remember, Katrina splintered the state. Here in where I lived in Brandon, I was in the dark for 6 days. I was sleeping on my screened-in patio and going to work at 10 and getting off at midnight. Anchoring the news. We think about that when it matters, when it happens to you. Start thinking about it now before it happens to you so that you and your loved ones are prepared.
Well, and you point out where Brandon was in the aftermath of Katrina. You go 70, 100 miles south to Hattiesburg, and it was worse there, and then it gets progressively worse as you go to the coast. I think that's, with the big storms, one of the things that we forget, just how far north the impact can exist.
For me, 20 years later, I had left New Orleans. I had sold my house a year and 3 months before Katrina. I was living in New Orleans and Lakeview. Took the opportunity to move back to my hometown and be an anchor. And all of my friends evacuated to our studios from WDSU in New Orleans. And they were looking at me because no one had expected that the storm A would have done that, but B, that it would have pushed that far in.
Yeah.
And we were doing wall-to-wall coverage because, again, the storm splintered the state, knocked out power lines. Gas shortages were all over the place. Long lines of people trying to get just gas for their vehicle. You don't think about that until you don't have it. Do you have a 5-gallon gas tank with gasoline in your garage just in case? Some people do that for their lawnmowers. You need to think about that in a storm event, certainly if one's coming your way, because you never know you'll need those things until you realize you don't.
Scott, last thing for you. I mentioned this or teased it before the break. The Operations Center for MEMA, the headquarters there. What is that? You described it as the bunker earlier.
A big bunker.
Try to put into words visually what that looks like.
Well, to the state's credit, the work on this started before Katrina. Before that, MEMA was in a little room place. I mean, a small operations center. But they had started the blueprints realizing the need for an operations center that could handle the worst case scenario. MEMA is a huge bunker facility capable of withstanding arguably a Cat 5, Cat 4, EF4 tornado, EF5 even possible. 2 floors, that goes underground. And we have multiple operations in there, and it's a hub that enables us to have eyes on everything. We are plugged into all the MDOT cameras and the systems that we have from one end of the state to the other. And it provides a magnificent opportunity to try and monitor and respond to what the state needs. And by the way, if you have any groups that would like to come see, we do give tours and show people what that's like. We like to educate people about what their tax dollars are doing to prepare Mississippians.
Scott Simmons, Chief Communications Officer with the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency. I hope all of our conversations can be this calm and laid back.
I agree.
We certainly will be in touch if disaster strikes.
We're here. We got you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Got about half an hour left with you on this Wednesday morning. Plenty still to get to. you want to join the conversation, you can do so on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Have you heard about the push for voter ID in California? It's the newest and biggest project on the docket for TPUSA. We're back with you right after this.
From the Seabrook.com.
All right, now to the important stuff.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important. Huge news.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
You can tell the world you never was my girl. You can burn my clothes when I'm gone. Oh, you can tell your friends just what a fool I've been and laugh and joke about me on the phone. You can tell my arms go back into the phone. You can tell my feet to hit the floor. Or you can tell my lips to tell my fingertips they won't be reaching out for you no more.
Doesn't everyone, at least in this part of the country, have the dream of owning land? Maybe it's a big place where you can make your own hunting rules. Maybe it's a smaller tract where you want to build your dream home or just a cabin for a weekend getaway. Maybe you recognize that land is a great investment because they're just not making any more. Whatever your reason, I want to tell you about my friends at David Fisher Land Company. David Fisher Land Company is based in Inverness in the heart of the Mississippi Delta, but they service all of Mississippi, Arkansas, and Louisiana. David Fisher Land Company has 40 years of experience in farm and recreational land brokerage, land appraisals, and farmland management. Whether you're looking for 100 acres, give or take, or several thousand acres, or maybe what you really want is an equity share in a hunting club from somewhere in the North Delta all the way down to the southern part of the state, David Fisher Land Company is ready to earn your business. And with customers across the Southeast, David Fisher Land Company is the perfect choice for the property that you want or you need to sell. Now, I could give you their phone number, but let's be honest. It's hard to remember a phone number that you hear on the radio sometimes. But you can remember the website, davidfisherland.com. That's davidfisherland.com. Go there, check out the listings that they've got on the site, or reach out to them through the contact information that you find there at davidfisherland.com. Reach out to David, Jack, or Travis. They'd love to help you with all your land needs, and do us a favor if you don't mind. Tell them you heard about them on Super Talk Mississippi on Mornings with Richard Cross. David Fisher Land Company, davidfisherland.com. So you may or may not have seen this story in the last couple of days. Benny Johnson is a Republican commentator, conservative commentator. He was close friends and worked in conjunction with Charlie Kirk at TPUSA. And he and the folks at Turning Point USA have kind of put a new area in their focus. Benny Johnson posted on X a short video from an interview that he did with Laura Trump on Fox News Channel. And in the post, he said, we're heading to California to kickstart the revival. The state has the largest Republican population in America, but no voter ID. He says that's how Gavin Newsom's machine survives. Listen to the plans from Benny Johnson and TPUSA with regard to voter ID in California.
California, because look, California is a bit of a disaster. To all of our friends out in California, we think of you guys all the time and we want to bring California back. We would love to see it flip red, but I know that you have a Save California block party coming up with Nicole Shanahan. This is an effort, Benny, to make sure that, I mean, it sounds crazy to even say voter ID is something that they have to have in California. And I want to get your take. Could we see California flip red? Could they see a Republican as governor of the state? What do you think?
Yes, absolutely, Laura. Very quickly here, if you expand out and look at Wisconsin, there was no voter ID. And Wisconsin was just one of those shady states, right, where you weren't sure where the votes were coming from. Wisconsin had a referendum, put voter ID on the ballot, and Democrats didn't even fight it, Laura. because they can't fight against voter ID. If you have it on the ballot, then they have no argument. And so Wisconsin now has voter ID and clean elections, and Donald Trump wins Wisconsin steadily and easily in 2024. Now let's move over to California. They have no voter ID. You know there's a problem with illegal voting in California. They have the same referendum mechanism. And so we are going to be assisting in an effort to make sure that voter ID is on the ballot in 2026. Democrats won't be able to fight it. There's no argument against it. All we need are 875,000 signatures from Californians that say, yes, we want this question on the ballot. If you want to stick it to Gavin Newsom, if you want Gavin Newsom to cry live on TV, if you want to make sure that Republicans can gain in fair elections in the state with the #1 largest population of Republicans, Laura, this is it.
Because it's a massive state, it has a massive Republican voter population. It's just a minority in the state of California, or at least we think it is. The comparison to Wisconsin is fascinating. We obviously have voter ID in Mississippi, and it's been wildly successful. And other than a few people who want to say that voter ID is a Jim Crow era tactic used by the right.
No, that is.
I know. No, I know it is.
Always going to be there.
Some of the in the last election cycle, some of the interviews that you heard were really, really interesting, where you would have reporters that would ask black people specifically about voter ID laws and whether or not these were discriminatory and whether or not, and the answers were just incredible. Not in a bad way, but in a good way. They're like, what do you mean is it hard to get an ID? No, I have to have an ID for everything. You have to have an ID to drive. You have to have an ID to buy alcohol. It doesn't seem to be a problem. People seem to be able to get IDs when they want to make those purchases. If you fly, you have to have an ID. It doesn't have to be a driver's license. It doesn't have to be a passport.
It has to have the star on it, though.
Well, if you want to fly.
That's what I thought you were talking about.
Yeah. And here's the crazy thing about this. The easiest response to this is, well, you're causing people to have to go pay for an ID. No, you just make a government-issued photo ID free. Like, hey, I mean, instead of charging $5 or $8 or $3 or $12 or whatever the number is, if you need a government-issued photo ID that proves who you are, then we'll give you one for free. And guess what? People get where they need to go. Certainly people that are voting are able to find their way to their local DMV or Social Security office or circuit clerk's office or whatever to get an ID. If you want safe and secure and fair elections, then you have no argument against voter ID. Are there things that are out there that suppress votes? Absolutely. Are there people out there that try to intimidate voters? Sure. But it's not that 2-inch by 3-inch card that goes in your wallet that is intimidating, that keeps people away from polls. And so, I mean, look, we're not breaking any new ground here, but it's a really simple question. It's a really simple idea. If you want fair and secure elections, then you implement voter ID because it gives you accountability as to who is voting. If you rely on people voting that are not supposed to be voting, then you're against voter ID because you want people voting illegally, whether they are illegal citizens, they're not eligible, they're voting under a name of someone who is dead, who has moved to another place. If you want and need and rely on those votes those non-legitimate illegal votes, then you don't want voter ID. Newsflash, California Democrats don't want voter ID. And they will rely on the same tired excuses, the same talking points, as Lance said just a second ago, of voter suppression and racism and Jim Crow era laws and all of those things, none of which are true. But if you say them loud enough and long enough, sometimes people will believe them. And so this idea that Benny Johnson, TPUSA, and others are going to go out and they are going to gather the 875,000 necessary signatures of Californians to get voter ID on the ballot so that the people of California, not the California State Assembly, not the governor, not anybody else, they don't make the decision. The residents of the state of California make the decision. Voter ID, thumbs up, thumbs down. I wouldn't think that they would have trouble collecting, if they've got a good coordinated effort, 875,000 signatures. Boy, it's going to be interesting to see, isn't it? Will the 2026 midterms have voter ID on the ballot in California? Could be a really big deal. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. We will wrap up the Wednesday edition of this program presented by Community Bank coming up next.
From the Venable.
Get up and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I went down to the river to watch the fish swim by. But I got to the river so lonesome I wanted to die. Oh, Lord. And then I jumped in the river, but the doggone river was dry. She's long gone, and now I'm long.
Good to be with you on this Wednesday morning. Another fast 3 hours almost in the books. We talked yesterday about the Attorney General candidate in Virginia, Jay Jones. You know, the one that said that he's got a couple of bullets for one of his colleagues in the, what do they call it in Virginia? It's not the House of Commons in Virginia, is it? Just their state assembly. So, what about other Democrats with ties to Virginia? We saw the Republican governor, Glenn Youngkin, come out against him and say that he should withdraw from the race. We saw President of the United States, obviously a Republican as well, come out and say that Jay Jones should withdraw from the race. What about Tim Kaine? You remember Tim Kaine? He was a candidate for vice president on the ticket with Hillary Clinton. He is a member of Congress, and not once but twice yesterday, he was asked about supporting Jay Jones and continuing to support Jay Jones. The first time was outside the Capitol, and the audio's not great. It's much better here. You can clearly hear Tim Kaine. I'll play it for you now.
Do you think Jay Jones should drop out of the race in Virginia?
Jay has apologized. The statements that he made were indefensible, but I've known Jay Jones for 25 years. I think those statements were not in character, and he has apologized. I wish other people in public life would sincerely apologize for stuff. So, no, I still am a supporter.
Do you think Jay Jones...
Still a supporter. That's Tim Kaine, state senator, or senator from Virginia. Sometimes people will tell you exactly who they are when you ask. Sometimes people will tell you exactly who they are without asking. Tim Kaine tells you who he is. Now, he's going to paint himself as a loyal friend. I've known Jay Jones for 25 years, and while his statement was indefensible, I'm going to rely on the 25 years of that relationship, not this message that was shared. You know what? I think that's a sign of a good friend. In some cases. You make an indiscretion in your personal life, cheat on a spouse, take money from work that you're not entitled to. And I think a good friend would stand by you and would say, you know what? Clearly, that thing that my friend did is wrong. He recognizes that. She recognizes that. They've apologized for it. And I'm going to stand by them. I'm going to continue to support them in this difficult time. I'm not going to abandon them. When somebody says in a text message, and not just says, but then elaborates and doubles down on, if I had 3 bullets with the opportunity to kill the 3 worst people I know, I'd use 2 of the bullets on one person, and that person is an elected official. And then follows it up with, yeah, their kids need to die because people don't change until they feel real pain. That's not standing by somebody in a time of adultery. That's not standing by someone after they were arrested for DUI and saying they made a bad decision. That is saying, I will stand by someone who has so much hate in their heart that they have a desire to see a person die because they believe differently than I do politically. That's what Tim Kaine tells you. That's what Jay Jones told you with his own words. Dave says Kaine said it is indefensible, and then he goes on to defend him. That speaks volumes. Another message on the C Spire text line. In regard to the California referendum, I wish that you would make these same arguments against our state representatives that come on the show and dog our ballot initiative process or lack thereof. If our elected officials won't do something, we should have a way to get around them, assuming we have the votes. I agree. And I think you are going to see a whole lot more conversation about the ballot initiative this year. In fairness, lots of you asked me about that a year ago during the most recent session of the legislature here in Mississippi. And I didn't really go down that road too far. Just thought we had a lot of other things going on. You've seen Jeremy England mentioned it multiple times. Is there an appetite for that in the Mississippi House and in the Mississippi Senate? There should be a tool in place for the common citizen to have a voice. If they disagree or they think something is important that maybe the rest of the legislature doesn't necessarily think is as important. And so, yes, we will talk about that. I don't know that they've dogged the ballot initiative process. I do think there's some changes that need to be made. We'll pick that conversation up. Thanks for being with us. Mornings with Richard Cross. Have a
SuperTalk Mississippi media production.